Tony.
So yeah, welcome to Tech Breakfast. We're inching toward AES. I don't know how many of you are going to AES, but pretty excited. I think, Rob, you're going?
Too many buttons, man. Is it in LA?
No, in New York.
No, I'm not going. I'm too busy.
I know Barry's going, and I know a couple other people are going, but let us know if you're going to head out that way. I think we're going to do something post AES, but for today we have Ozone. When I've got a million questions, and people have been texting me who are not able to make it and want me to ask a lot of questions. So I'm going to let Barry introduce our guest.
Yeah, Jack Tarricone from iZotope is going to speak to us about RX10 primarily, and a little bit of Ozone 10 at the end, time permitting. In the first post in the chat, by the way, everybody, is a link to Kurt's new pedal, a video that he's shot. It doesn't look like the correct link, but I'll fix that in a minute. But anyway, Jack, take off. Everybody, here's Jack. Go ahead, Jack.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jack Tarricone. Really great to be here at the Tech Breakfast. Excited to show off RX10 Advanced. Apologies, I had prepared for RX10, but I am happy to share a little Ozone, here to ask questions, and I'm actually installing it right now, so I can show that off a little bit. It seems like there's definitely a lot of interest, so happy to kind of be around for that. So before we get started, I'll give a little bit about myself, and I'd also love to connect with you all a little bit and kind of get like at least broad strokes on, you know, your background and the kind of things that you work on in music and other work. So I started at iZotope about 5 years ago. I've been working on since RX6. Also have worked on Ozone, Neutron, Nectar, vocal synth, and lots of other little things along the way. And I was curious to kind of just by either show of hands or put something in the chat, or you could do a little reaction thingy on Zoom. How many folks like regularly are using some either RX or some kind of like repair tool as part of their like mixing process or recording, mastering? Okay, so it looks like some hands here. Looks like a few people. So
even my office staff is raising their hand.
That's awesome. And I was curious, I know we're mostly like a music crowd here, but is there any folks here that also ever dabble in either post-production or podcast creation, or anyone that ever works with dialogue? Like sometimes you're the one person that knows about audio that becomes the dialogue editor. Okay, it looks like a few hands there. Cool. Okay, cool. That's helpful for me just to kind of get a sense. Like it's going to be definitely music oriented, but there's so much in RX that's also for dialogue and podcasts and content that definitely going to show some of that stuff too. So I just want to make sure it wasn't completely, not helpful for everyone here. So great. Well, just for any folks that aren't familiar with what iZotope RX is, this is our award-winning repair suite that can be used to restore, clean up, and improve recordings. RX10 Advanced comes with 20 plugins. Some of those are Pro Tools Audio Suite only, a few of them, and also the standalone app, which I'm definitely going to feature in my talk. So I'm going to start sharing here. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
Does it remove, can you clean up like old vinyl records?
Absolutely. And there's so many tools that you could use for restoration. Just from anything like as simple as declick or decrackle. for the kind of like clicks and crackles. We also have one of the only wow and flutter tools. So if you have like a bad wow, I'm pretty sure your only other option is like a capstan module that can do wow and flutter. And so um, yeah, there's tons of tools, lots of denoising and other things that could be used for
Oh,
vinyl.
that's cool. My mom was in a big band during the World War II, Victory Sweethearts, and I got a random email from a woman that says, "I have a bunch of Victory Sweethearts records. Do you want them?" And it was like, yeah. So this is great. I'm going to buy it now.
That's super cool. Yeah, this is the perfect thing for your project. That's awesome. Yeah, so what you're looking at here, just for anyone that's not familiar with, this is called spectrogram, and this is a visual representation of the audio. So you're probably you may be familiar with this view, the waveform, where you have time on the x-axis, and then this is your amplitude, right? Your kind of intensity of your sound here. And so when we're looking at the spectrogram view, on the y-axis, you're getting your frequency values. So up here, the high frequencies, and down here, the low frequencies, like a bass hit. Things that look like vertical lines are transients. So it's a really powerful way to interact with audio, because you can actually see the problems a lot clearer and be able to clean them up with tools that, you know, in the DAW, it could be a lot more challenging. And so this is one of the ways to use RX, which is in the standalone. You can also use it right in your DAW as an external editor, or with RX Connect, which will send your clips from like Pro Tools or a Cubase into RX, where you can work on them and send them back. And one workflow that I love to use is just offline processing in your DAW. So like an audio suite, or in Logic, there's selection-based processing. So you can just quickly apply, you know, your repair right in the DAW. Before I get started, I'll just, yeah, kind of highlight all these different things that are that are in RX. There's so many different specialized modules. Some of the core classic ones are like the declipper. This is a really great sounding declipper. So if you had some audio that was super clipped or just a little bit clipped, you can kind of go in here and clean it up. And it really restores things in a great way. There's the ambience match, if you need to kind of that's more like a post-production thing, but there's really just so many different modules. So I'm going to highlight a couple. So going back here, the first one I'm going to show you is just another classic module called Spectral Repair. And so you can see here there's this bright feature here that's really sticking out. Also, let me know, can you hear this audio? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I think I didn't click the little checkbox here. Hold on. Sorry about this, everybody. Yeah. My bad. Okay. More time here. Of course, the audio demo. Okay, sorry about this. Okay. So I did my okay, did you get that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, apologies there. So let's take a listen to what this feature is here. So here we've got this piercing whistle. This is RX is great for cleaning up live recordings, especially if you don't have access to the stems. There's a lot of magic that I'm going to show you that you can do with just a single file. So we're going to use something called Spectral Repair for this whistle problem. So what this does is it looks at the surrounding audio and says, okay, this thing is not like the other. And so I'm going to either turn it down or attenuate it, replace it with something else, or do a couple more kinds of processing. So we're just going to use the attenuate, because we're going to turn this down. We're going to look and basically both directions around the audio, and it's going to say, okay, this really stands out. So I'm going to bring it back into the background. So I'm going to choose the little magic wand tool down here, which is going to basically automatically select this. And if I hold shift, see this little plus icon. Now if I double click, I can select the harmonics like that. So now I've got my whistle and the harmonics selected, and I'm just gonna basically turn it down. So let's see. So if now we take a listen, we can see what RX has done. So you can see the whistle is pretty much gone. You could get in there and clean it up a little bit more, but this is just really illustrative of like kind of how the spectrogram works, and classic tool, which is very versatile in RX, it's been around for a while, which is spectral repair. And I'm going to start with a few of these core features, and then I'm going to tell you all about the awesome things in RX10. Next up I have...
Jack, can I ask a question in that? Is this in the standalone version you have to leave Pro Tools, or is it now incorporated in just an Audio Suite plugin?
So Spectral Repair, this demo here that I'm showing is mostly the standalone. So yeah, the only place that we have Spectral Repair in the DAW is in Logic. We support ARA plugins, and so we have a spectral editor there, but otherwise you'd need to use like RX Connect basically to take your problem, send it to RX, and then send it back. So
now that Pro Tools is ARA, is it going to be available for Pro Tools as a plugin?
Well, we have tons of interest in getting ARA to other DAWs. We know that people want this, and they always ask us, when are your ARA plugins coming to other DAWs? And so that's definitely, top of mind for us. We have so we'd love to get this in other DAWs. The kind of backstory into that is that the ARA tech is a plugin format that was created by Celemony for Melodyne, and they opened it up, but it's a little bit like, it can be a little bit tricky to actually implement in the different DAWs. So it's not like we just were like, oh, we're only going to put it in Logic because that's the best DAW. It was like, let's start here, and it's non-trivial to just put it into other DAWs. So we know we want it, and we know other people want it, and that'd be amazing, to get into Pro Tools, and could be moving in the right direction there. So, but yeah, that's a long answer to your question there. So, here's Dialogue Isolate. So this is basically a one-stop shop for just taking noise out from dialogue. So if you have something that's any kind of speech that is covered in lots of different kinds of noise, this is just going to quickly use our in-house machine learning algorithms to say that basically know per se what speech is and what speech isn't. And so when we listen to this noisy clip here,
really, really bad. Probably the worst since I've lived in New York City.
So I just pre-rendered this to save time in the demo, but here's after Dialogue Isolate.
Really, really bad. Probably the worst since I've lived in New York City.
And now that was intentionally leaving some of the ambience in so that it was like a little more natural. But if you wanted to go really extreme, you could get something like this.
It was 3 times as high as normal. So hopefully
So that's compared to, something like this.
So
that's just a quick illustration of another great tool in RX Advanced, Dialogue Isolate. So let's get to a music example. So I'm going to show dehum, and this is a module that's really useful and has got an update, a small update, but a powerful one for RX10. So this is a pretty stationary hum here. What I mean by that is it's not really changing too much. It's very kind of steady. Let's take a listen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the dynamic dehum. This was introduced in RX9. The original dehum was more like a simple notch filter that was really just works best for very basic ground hum. The dynamic mode adds like a ton more bands to really take care of the kinds of amp noise and other kinds of electrical noise that is actually a lot more common than a simple ground noise. So what I've done is I've learned this is a common workflow in RX on this hum noise, and now I'm just gonna like apply this to the entire file. So I'm just gonna render here. This is something you could easily do in the DAW as well. And we're going to just take a listen. So not only was it able to get rid of the hum, it did it in a nice way where it's not impacting the music and the tone that you're going for, which is kind of the great battle there in restoration is how do I take out these things that I think are distracting from the actual music, but I want to retain all the musical kind of character that I'm going after. And a big, an important thing is not going too far really. And that noise is okay. You know, a lot of the classic like recordings that we know and love have tons of noise on them. So anyway, sometimes there's kinds of hum that that aren't perfectly stationary, and this is a good example where this might look like pretty steady state, but it's actually warbling a little bit more. You can see this band here up in the around 15K is pretty prominent, but let's take a listen to this speech example. Oops.
It was remarkably for its time a versatile yet expensive unit that I found in all the top post audio.
So there's kind of just some camera noise coming in here, and it's kind of like phasing a little bit. So new in RX10 is this adaptive mode checkbox, which this is very heavy. So it does work in the plugin, but only offline. So like in an audio suite or a selection-based processing, for example, or direct offline processing if you use Cubase. But what this does is this just adapts to the hum. And so this, you know, it's a humble checkbox here, but it sounds really good. And a lot of cases will beat out even explicitly learning the noise. So if I just check this and render, we can take a look or a listen rather to what this has done. So
the first reverb unit I remember using in my early career was the Lexicon 480L. It was remarkably for its time.
So it's done that in a really, really, you know, awesome way there, where it's maintaining the character of the speech really well and taking out the hum and just letting you focus on what's happening. So
Question.
Yeah.
If you have multiple problems, so let's say there's something at 15K and there's something at 60K, do you take them all out in one fell swoop, or do you multi-band them at the same time, or do you take out one at a time?
So typically, like especially in dehum here, it's like it's really just like all at once. Like if you have certain issues that are like, especially in adaptive mode, you can see here it's actually there's hum all the way. This is like a kind of I could change my resolution, but you can see it's kind of it's wiped all this stuff out and this stuff kind of all at once. Typically same thing if I were to learn, like on this last example, I have all these different harmonics and I'm just learning like the entire, and you can see these are basically all the detected band harmonics basically, and you have control over adding more bands. You can like make the cue really tight, which will, you know, could make it could cause ringing, but it will also, it could make it a little more transparent in some cases, or bring it down. But yeah, I'd say in generally these work kind of broadband, and sometimes it might make sense to treat things like the frequency tool is really great. So if you want to be really surgical, for example, like if all this stuff wasn't bothering you and you really just wanted to do this, you could make this selection, like you could zoom in and that would just, sorry, I got my wrong zoom, like here, and you could like basically just take care of this exact frequency across the board. And this is something that like spectral repair could help with, and I would say vertical. So this says, okay, look above and below this frequency and make it match. So it's going to say, okay, this part's way louder than above and below here, so I'm going to want to, you know, turn that down. But you know, dehum would probably work better. So anyway, sorry.
I have a question kind of related to the same thing. I actually had a console. It was the old Sunset Sound console that had unbalanced buses, and it was in New York City, and they had a problem with hum. There was a little bit of hum in the buses, 60 cycle hum, but the Empire State Building was like, you could see it out the window, which meant that the TV transmission was coming in. And of course, it's not exactly 60 hertz. It's a little bit off. So there was this constant like that. And so you couldn't really notch it because it was going between 60 and 59.97 back and forth. Can this handle a wavering frequency like that?
Yeah, so that is exactly what this new, as I said, this humble checkbox that was introduced in RX10 is adaptive mode. So this is adapt to changing frequencies here, and this is brand new with the latest version. This was something that we actually wanted to get in RX9, and our resident wizard Alexi was working on. So yeah, you just perfectly described the use case for this adaptive mode, and that's what I hope to illustrate on this example here. Cool.
Are you going to have a coupon at the end of the show? Because I'm going to buy it.
Let's see. I think I left them at home, but I work at home, so I don't know. So any other questions just on up to this point so far before I move on to music rebalance?
I have a question for you, if you don't mind, Jack.
Yeah, of course.
Back to the first example, the Spectral, the audio you were using was clearly like an MP3 or a compressed for a lossy format. I have never, every now and again, I'll get something on that like that in. I've never been able to get the Spectral Recovery to legitimately restore the upper range. Does that actually just not work, or am I doing it wrong?
So Spectral Recovery, looks like Spectral Recovery, I'm actually going to demo the new Spectral Recovery towards the tail end of this demo to show off the new things in RX10, and I'll dig into that there. And it basically is totally new processing, but the short answer to that is that the use case is really like on more band limited audio. So it's not really a tool that's going to take like an MP3 kind of compression and make it sound like a wave. It's more like taking like a Zoom call or something that like a phone call and making it kind of, so if you're like podcast hosting.
My typical use case would be where a mix has been created where one or two of the underlying elements are clearly MP3. So you'll see some manipulation in there, but there's also natural acoustic audio that's taking place, and some services, some distributions, some labels will kick that out as well. This looks like it's an MP3, and you have to explain the sort of the minutia of, well, actually that's just like the trombone part that for whatever reason was recorded on an iPhone because that's what they had, and it's compressed and da-da-da-da-da-da. Where sometimes it'd just be able to, make it look pretty and be done with it, because it's really not going to affect the sound in a meaningful way. So I hear what you're saying, though. I appreciate your insights on that.
Well, yeah, thank you. I mean, I'd love to dig into it more just because that's a really fascinating kind of use case, and it's something we could definitely add to our backlog.
As the distribution methods, as the streamers want to move to more high resolution and uncompressed, things like this keep cropping up because people are creating in very sort of nonlinear ways these days. And MP3 elements or compressed elements can wind up in audio for a number of reasons. And it does create issues where you're trying to genuinely distribute at a high resolution, but like I said, like the vocal on this particular song was recorded on an iPhone, so it's bad, or that's one part or something. So anyway, thanks for your insights. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'd love to connect, Stephen, and just make sure I capture that and just hear about it a little more. That's super interesting. That's the kind of thing, we're looking out for that we can solve with RX. So cool. Any other questions before I move on? All right, so this is a really fun module, music rebalance, which I love to use. There's a lot of different use cases for this, like in live sound, if you're working on a live recording where you just have like the output from the board, or you want to make a cover, and sometimes if it's just you playing all the instruments, it can be hard to figure out where to start. So with something like this, you could from just the stereo master, isolate different elements in the music, or take them out, or almost like remix it. So in this case, I'm showing, here's some like music. Let's see. So what I've kind of pre-rendered here is just like showing, taking the drums out. So and so, my dad, for example, is a drummer, and he loves to use this to basically kind of make tracks that he can just play along to. There's a ton of different use cases. Here's another example I rendered where if you just wanted to hear the drums, here's this part. So if you had like an issue or something with like the kick was way too strong, you could use the separate function here, which will just automatically split it into these 4 stems of vocal, bass, percussion, and everything else, and then kind of remix it to taste, and then squish it back together. And especially that workflow will kind of cut down on the typical kinds of artifacts that you find with this kind of processing. So like, especially when the stems are re-blended back together, that's kind of the best case, but it can be also useful for slight tweaks or more heavy sampling or other things. So it's just like a fun, but this is also an RX standard. So, this is something you can play with without the kind of most fanciest version, if you will. Okay, let me get my little zoom thing's blocking me. Here we go. Okay, so next up, I think I was going to show, oh yeah, so oops, how do you scan this? Let me re-import this. So I'm going to switch to the new features in RX now. So let me open this up here. Okay, so brand new in RX 10 is our text navigation features. And so this is really for like, this works for dialogue, and it's for speech. So the main use case is really kind of like a podcast type situation, which gives you context in your audio. So it may not be as relevant for this crowd, but I'll just do a quick kind of showing what this is. And so this is doing like a speech to text thing. And then in the advanced copy, you also get speaker detection, which has basically highlighted these 2 different speakers in different colors. So you can see the blue is one speaker and the orange is another.
Your furniture strategy.
Right. I mean,
and so you can kind of zoom in here and see individual words, and you can use this for selections. Now the main, like the actual transcription quality isn't that high. We're really using it for kind of navigation and also like searching. And so like, for example, if I type like P I'm going to get all the words that it found that started with P. So like if I have someone that has a bunch of plosives, I can say, okay, here are like words that might be bad, or like B. Or if I know they keep saying one word like with lots of sibilants, you know, or anything that starts with S, I can kind of jump there. And then alternatively, in when you have the speaker detection, I can just detect all of one, or select all of one speaker. So when used with something like RX's module chain, this can be really powerful to basically, a lot of times one voice will need a different treatment than another voice. So if you have a really rumbly person, you know, I could say, okay, this is, you know, this is Barry's chain. And then you can even label your speakers here, like here's Tony, here's Barry. And if you really want to, like you can also, if you find something that's like, let's see, like this. So this is just cave, I think, not cave.
Man cave.
So I could just say, okay, I just want to make this cave. So anyway, that's just like a quick overview of the text navigation. We are working on improving the quality and the detection right now, but just wanted to show that off as something that, especially for anyone who's worked with like long pieces of audio, like an hour long or something, just being able to jump around or zoom out and kind of get a view of your different speakers. And that's kind of what we're going for just like a better editing experience.
Can I ask Jack, I'm sorry, somebody was making noise in my office here. Which module is that?
So this is a new feature in RX10. It's in standard and advanced, and it's not a module actually, but rather down here there's like a little speech bubble which will show the word lane and kind of do the word analysis, and then there's this little one which pops out the search bar. And in standard, you'll get all of this, except you won't see the speakers and you won't see the colors. So it'll all be the same color, but you'll still be able to search and things like that.
Fantastic, thank you.
Also, I can't see the I'll pop this open, but I can't see everyone very easily. So just if you have a question, just feel free to interrupt me, because I might not see you raising your hand or something.
Does this have any musical ability to function over music at all? Like, could you scan an album for swear words, that kind of thing with it?
Currently, no, it's dialogue. Music.
What if you fed it an acapella?
So sung music also, it's just speech right now, but I mean those kinds of use cases are definitely things that we could work on. So yeah, if you have more ideas, yeah, like scanning for swear words, or yeah, but acapella singing. And another limitation I should mention too is that it's English only right now. We would love to bring this to more languages and things, but
it's really, really cool, man. It's amazingly powerful, and it's brilliant. I've never seen this part of the I don't have a use for it, but man, it's brilliant.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm glad. I think it's kind of hard to tell the story of like, okay, this is for editing and for like, you know, giving you some context. I think it's really easy to just like latch on to the fact that like sometimes it's just going to say silly things up here, and so it's kind of hard to differentiate it from like a transcript, like a purely transcription kind of thing, but appreciate it. Thank you. Any other questions on this before I jump to the next thing?
I popped in here a little bit late. Which we're looking at, the advanced or the standard?
So this feature is in advanced and standard, although in standard you won't get the speaker identification. So you'll be able to search and you'll see all the words up here. They'll just be the same color. So that's the kind of differentiation there between the SKUs.
Okay, so this is the advanced one we're looking at.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. So this is a good segue into the repair assistant, which now is a plugin, which I will show you. I didn't want to open Logic earlier because I was installing Ozone, but this has been totally overhauled in RX10. Let me open up my for that. It is. So the old repair assistant looked a lot different. We kind of went in a different direction with this one. And basically this combines a lot of our classic modules in RX into one, but it's definitely more than just the sum of the parts because of the way we have this advanced learning that kind of takes the context of all the different modules into, into consideration. So we've also improved the learning to make it smarter where, if you were to just in the past, you would just try and find the one part that's like noisy like this and try and learn on that to capture the noise. Now you can really just learn anywhere and it's going to be kind of still gentle on the voice. And it's not just for, there's also a lot of awesome music applications for Repair Assistant. There's a music mode, a specific percussion mode, and also like a FX mode to kind of clean up like sound effects, percussion, or music. So I'm going to show this off actually in the DAW, but before I go there, one feature in advance, this is actually all the way down to our entry-level SKU Elements. So you can get this in the most affordable version of RX is RX Elements, which has 6 plugins like declip, declick, and now Repair Assistant. So it's a great way to just like add restoration to your mixing, mastering workflow, or more like mixing, I guess. But you can open as a module chain now. So I just kind of, if you really want to like see the specifics of all the things that it's doing, you can kind of check this out here. So let me switch to the DAW and I'll show a musical case here. You can see what it looks like. I've got to scan my new Ozone plugins that I installed for the little bonus part of this. So I found the repair. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jack, could we assume that the tools in Ozone 10 work exactly the same as these tools in RX 10?
Which ones do you mean?
Well, I mean in general, if you have a denoise plug-in in RX 10, and if I were to go in Ozone 10, would it work the same way?
Well, there's not as much kind of restoration stuff in Ozone. So as a mastering tool, there's not really any like denoise things, but if what you're getting at is like the kind of possible like shared DSP across the iZotope lines, that like wondering the fundamental compressors and things like that. That's kind of what you're asking, like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So each product actually does, like, we have some low level shared code between our products, but our flagship products like Neutron, Ozone, and RX are have been going for a while now and are getting like pretty specialized, so like the compressor, for example, like the Ozone maximizer, like we don't really have anything like that in RX per se. So there's definitely some crossover, but a lot of these things are kind of specific to the product, like in that full form. You know what I mean? It's a little hard to describe there. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for you, but that's kind of a little insight into kind of the back end of it, I guess.
Sure. Thanks, man.
Yeah. So anyway, here's the Repair Assistant. So I've got this piano track with let's see, let me bypass this, with some hum on it. And so if I want to, basically just clean this up, I would just, turn this on. I'd do like a little learn pass. You'd kind of listen and decide what it wants. And so here you can kind of see the spectrogram. and the noise reduction coming down from the top. So if we go back to the beginning, so that hum is just gone. You can kind of see it reducing, but in a really transparent way. So we also wanted to make this, as real-time friendly as we could. So in declip, we have a new lower latency mode. In this case, it actually decided not to turn on anything but the denoising. But you'd see this, oops, I learned it on speech mode by mistake. You'll basically see this kind of give its best guess at all the things that your audio needs. So it's just like a really quick way, where it's like, okay, I don't want to be like going super deep right now. I just need to clean this up. Like, just throw this on, learn. And I think I found that I think our sound designers did a really awesome job where this is like very tasteful. So it's gonna clean up the problems that you have, but it's not going to go too far. And if it does, you can dial it back. But I think out of the box with a learn, it's actually a really awesome tool. So I definitely encourage everyone to give this a shot with a demo. It's in our most affordable SKU, RX Elements, which is a great deal, with 6 plugins, and that goes on sale like pretty frequently. So definitely check this out. I think for this music crowd, like, this could be just an awesome tool for you to have a quick way to, in your DAW, clean up your audio. So I have, that's like the main. Oh, actually, there's one more. The last thing was the Spectral Recovery. So I'm just going to really briefly show that workflow, and then we'll have a little time for some questions and maybe a little Ozone 10. So apologies if I'm running a little long here.
You're fine, dude. Don't sweat it. It's amazing the amount of things you can do with it. So I think I can't speak for everybody, but I'm pretty much in awe of everything you've got going on in that.
I've been a user since version 2, and literally every piece of audio that comes through my shop goes through RX, because everything needs something. Everything needs something. And if more of you guys bought it and did that before it gets to me, I'm totally cool with that.
Well, less time on your board, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things too, where for me, like, once you get in that mode of listening for those things, like, you realize how common like a little bit of clipping or a little bit of crackle is.
Edit pops from really sloppily done comps or vocal edits. It's like almost every song has at least a couple vocal pops, and sometimes little, sparklies are one thing, and we'll leave that kind of stuff in. But there's just, cuts from hard edits, and it's unbelievable that everything has to go through just to make sure it's ready, so that we don't get into the studio to EQ it, and all of a sudden we're going back to RX to clean stuff. It's like we want to be in the flow, right? So.
Definitely. So lastly, I'll just share, and yeah, like, there are so many things. Like, I was a little stumped, because I was like, okay, I want to give like a wide view, but there's just so many modules that I haven't even touched on that could be great for music that I use, like DS, deplosive. A lot of times you can really get like surgical with plosives, like even better than the deplosive module, like in the spectrogram, with something as simple as the gain module, which is actually one of the most popular modules in RX, which is just like basically saying like, okay, this is something I don't like I just want to turn that thing down. That was obviously, very extreme, but yeah, so there's really so much here. I definitely say give it a shot, and play with it and see if you like it and how it makes your work sound. But I'm just going to show this example of Spectral Recovery. So
Jack, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
One of the issues that continues to pop up for me is that when I affect, a section of audio, it doesn't matter how small or how large, it tends to give me a timing error issue.
Okay, like a shift, like a latency shift.
Yeah. And then when I do it the second time, it doesn't seem to give me that that error message. I'm just curious if there's some trick to that, where the and you can see it if I match up the waveforms. I can see that it's moved it over by a little bit.
I'd be happy to maybe we can catch up for a few minutes at the end or something and take a look. Like, are you working in Pro Tools there?
Pro Tools, the latest greatest Pro Tools.
Yeah, so Pro Tools latency compensation, like, unfortunately has some limitations where like any DSP that's over like 500 milliseconds of latency is basically just not handled well at all in Pro Tools. And so that's just like a long standing, it must be super deep in the program. I think in Audio Suite, sometimes we see like with sometimes we see these kind of problems, and so I'm happy to like dig into that with you. We can go I might have some ways to like work around that. I'm definitely not saying, it's Pro Tools fault. There could be known issues on the iZotope side at play too, but that's just some context that like that's kind of a challenging. Our one limitation of iZotope stuff is, I think in general, it can be pretty resource intensive or higher latency. And so that's something we're definitely working on. And we know it's a feature to be as light as possible. And it's something that we designed for, like in Repair Assistant, but some of our modules are heavy to do the heavy lifting that they do on the sound, so yeah, I'd be happy to catch up with you though, Michael.
Oh, thanks, Jack. Would you put your contact in the chat, please?
Yes, I will. I'll put this in here one more time, and definitely feel free to reach out to me.
Then whatever we decide or solve, I will share with everybody else at the next meeting.
Great. Cool. So just lastly, I'll just share something that was totally overhauled in RX10, which is the Spectral Recovery. So as we kind of got a preview to earlier with Steven's question, like this is really for like band limited or more like Zoom call. I've kind of created a very extreme case here for the demo where there's like nothing above 4K. So on more subtle examples, I'd say your mileage is going to vary, but for like phone calls, especially Zoom calls, like or other kinds of voice over IP, like basically and this is also just, I always get a kick out of sharing this demo over Zoom, right? So it's like, we're on Zoom now. So, but anyway, this is basically meant to kind of restore some of the character in speech. So if I kind of set this back to default and learn, one thing that's new in RX10 is also being able to restore the low end of the voice. And it sounds a lot better. It's basically just a totally different kind of algorithm here. So, whoops. Let me actually, why don't we listen to what it sounds like here?
So we've been working on loudness in the story for RX8.
So this is like some kind of like a little bit artificially, cut. This was a Zoom call and then I just kind of made it worse. But if I learned here, and now I'm just going to kind of bring this back and we'll hear what it did. So you can see this stuff kind of appear. There's still a little bit of a gap here, but
so we've been working on loudness in the story for RX8, and there are sort of two problems that have been outlined.
So it's just kind of it's actually resynthesized the upper part of his voice. So this isn't like an EQ where I just turned up the high end. It's like this is information that was created in the high end. It's best guess. And what's cool is that I know this person. This is Mike, our product manager on the RX team, and it's his voice. So I think I would definitely suggest for advanced users, like if you're getting Zoom calls, give this a shot to just try and, especially if someone's really band limited, like sometimes they'll get a bad phone call. If you're on podcast, people call in, things like that. So anyway, that is my overview of what's new in RX10, text navigation, repair
Jack,
assistant.
can you play, excuse me, can you play the before and the after real quick?
Yeah,
Quickly,
here's the before.
So we've been working on loudness in the story for RX8, and there are sort of two problems that have been outlined. So we've been working on loudness in the story for RX8, and there are sort of two problems that have been outlined.
Sorry, there's a better AB there.
Okay,
so
thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah, so that's my overview. Just again at a top level, the big things in RX10 are the text navigation, the repair assistant, the adaptive dehum toggle, and the overhauled spectral denoise. There's also something for like pro users or people that use RX all the time. A long requested feature was frequency feathering. So we now have added that in there too, which allows you to get even more transparent edits, kind of like a video editor type of thing. So anyway, any questions for me or anything I can help?
Frequency feathering, explain.
Yeah, let me go back here and I'll just quickly show you what that looks like. So what that is let's say if I go back to that first example with the whistle and I go back here. So this, I had a very surgical selection there, but let's say I had something that was like less perfect. I could just go like this and oops. So what frequency feathering is it's basically like a crossfading between the unprocessed and processed signal at the border. So like a time feathering, which we always had in RX. And this can basically, one common thing, like for if your time feathering's at 0, it's going to cause like clicks and things like that because you're having you're basically getting a discontinuity in your waveform. So, but this is going to allow you to make like more transparent edits. So if I go to Spectral Denoise and actually, I'll use a different example here. I'll use like, here's some speech in there. Like if we listen to this little part. So there's like some speech. Let's say I was just feeling kind of lazy and I was like, okay, I just want to like turn down like this talking. And so I go over to spectral repair and I'm just like, okay, like turn this down. And let's say I did it a little bit, but then when I listened back, let's see. Oops. Huh. Looks like my audio. I don't know why
it's really quiet.
Yeah, it's so quiet now. My audio just kind of dropped there on my Zoom share. I'm going through a couple different things right now, like with my headset, and so Zoom audio driver. But let's see. I don't know. Might need to reshare. Oh, you know what it was? When I just shared again, I didn't click the tiny share sound checkbox. I think that must have been it. Sorry. Can you hear this? Oh no, shit. Okay. Well, I don't know what's going on right now. I've kind of lost audio. Maybe Logic.
Can we at least see what the result would look like?
Yeah. So absolutely. So like, so if I make like an edit like this, like I'll just use the gain module for example. If I were to attenuate something and I use the sorry, like a brush tool or something, and so this is at like 0 frequency feathering. If I were to do the same thing but increase the frequency feathering a little bit and like the time feathering, then you'll see, let's see, I'll crank it up a little more. It's like it's going to be, see how it's like it's blending there between the process, where if I turn the feathering like all the way back down, it's going to,
That's
you
awesome.
know, fully cut. So it's just like a more transparent way. And so we always had this in time. And so now we've added it for, for frequency too. So
So helpful.
yeah. And we're making improvements to the UX. We've gotten a lot of feedback where like, if your frequency feathering is high and you're like, oh my God, why is this like not working? Like I'm expecting one thing, like I've done this edit in RX a million times, but like, it's not like, it's not like doing it all the way. It's because we found people have feathering on. So anyway, this is something we're improving, but that's just a
I have a
very little thing.
question. When you're dealing with like a live recording, you have some feedback where you have a pretty like that whistle that was pretty loud, but when you get feedback where it just cuts into everything, is it pretty good at, you don't have to get rid of it, but being able to reduce it, would really help. Can it do that?
For sure. And I mean, like, the benefit of using a spectrogram like this is that you'll be able to really clearly like see that feedback. I don't have like an audio example handy on me, but like, for example, if you're just in the waveform, you might see a little bump, but like you don't have the kind of information that you're going to see where, okay, this is like my feedback right here. I can kind of surgically go in there and either use gain, use spectral repair or spectral denoise or dehum or all types of different processing to kind of turn that down. So that's one of the big benefits of the spectrogram.
I have a recording of the first recording that was ever really done with the Soundfield mic, way back. My father's big band, their big band leader was an investor in the company. And there was a guy in the audience that after every solo would go like that. And it would just completely take over the entire recording. I mean, it was just unbelievable. My mom finally threatened to stab the guy in the face with a fork and he stopped. But literally every solo, this guy would like do this whistle. And it's like, I see everybody laughing because everybody's been in that position. It's like,
and you still want to show your appreciation.
Yeah.
Thinking of trying to cut it.
But I mean, that type of thing, that would be great because it's an incredible recording, but there's this idiot whistling. Or I've had situations like I did a thing with Jim Messina where they had the building's literally panel for all the power was directly behind the stage. I mean, it was like behind a door and you open it up and there's every panel for the entire like building. And his guitar was like that. And it was like, you couldn't null it out. There was no position you could stand. And if you were able, now, if you're doing something like that, that's really bad, if you know ahead of time that you've got an issue, can you sample that sound and then later in and use that as a better source to be able to extract it from the recording?
Yeah, like if you have like for example in that guitar hum example that I showed, like having those seconds of just the hum can really help like zone in on the noise reduction. So that can be very helpful to have some clean hum per se.
Oh, good. That's awesome because we have that, and it's just everywhere in the recording. It's just unbelievable. So that's cool. Uh-oh.
I found the there's like a guitar denoise module is massively powerful for things far beyond just guitar denoising, taking out random buzzes and things in places or hums where the dehum module prior to the dynamic mode wouldn't work. That guitar dehum, guitar denoise module is really, really cool.
Yeah, definitely. That's like our kind of like hum buzz, like before the dynamic mode came in, that was definitely like the kind of predecessor to that. Yeah, cool.
Hey, I got a comment just in case this didn't occur to people. One of the really cool things in RX, and you showed it in selecting that whistle and the harmonics, is I had a old album of my band where the tapes don't exist anymore and had to decrackle it and all that sort of stuff. But the bass player was late on one measure, and that always irritated me. And I selected that bass as harmonics, scooted that over, and man, he's tight as heck now.
That's amazing. That's really cool.
Anybody else have any questions for Jack? Jack, I'm blown
Yeah,
away.
I'll ask a quick question. What's happening with Iris? Is that still being developed, or is that going to be a dead plugin?
Iris is we haven't worked on it in a while. For folks that aren't familiar, Iris is a kind of like spectrogram based musical synthesizer. So you can basically load up samples and use them like a synth. Definitely really cool and unique software instrument. Yeah, it's kind of it hasn't been like our focus. Lots of fans internally, like myself included. It's awesome, and it's kind of like we only have so much we can choose, like what we're going to work on to a degree, and it's like, we're busy making the ozones, the RXs, and the neutrons right now, but tons of interest internally to come back to a lot of those cool earlier iZotope kind of creative products for sure.
What about electrons? You guys are ignoring electrons?
Oh my God, I haven't heard that name in a while. Yes, I guess so. Such is the changing tides of the world, I guess, Some things flow in and some things flow out, and it's a little bit of an ebb and flow, I'd say.
You want to talk briefly about Imager, what that does?
Sure, that's a good segue. If you want to see a little bit of Ozone, I don't know how long I can keep you, so just tell me when to shut up.
Keep talking.
Okay. So I'll show a little bit of ad hoc. I didn't really prepare anything for Ozone, but I'll just kind of show what it looks like. Let me try and find some audio that I have, because there's some new improvements in
One
imaging.
thing I discovered is that it's all plugins. Ozone is not standalone.
Yes,
I
that
believe
was
it was at one point in time. It was standalone, and so
yes, I should have mentioned that too. Like we discontinued the standalone Ozone app. Like we found that
version 8 or 9 or something.
Actually, this was the first version that we discontinued it, and I don't think we messaged it very well, because a lot of people were kind of like, we should have given more of a heads up or something, because people were really missing it and being like, "Where's the app?" And it was surprising.
Yeah. I installed it and it didn't show up anywhere, and I go, "What happened?" And then you had to tell me it's plug-in only now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jack. Go ahead. Don't let me interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's good. Like, I mean, it's interesting too, because we have, our analytics and things, like they showed us like not that many people were really using the app, like in the broad scheme of users, but then there was clearly a whole bunch of folks that were like really enjoying it and using it. So yeah, that was one little wrinkle with the Ozone 10 release there. But wait till you see all this awesome cool stuff that's in there. Let me just grabbing an audio file here that an early mix I did or something. Let's see here.
So while you're doing that, I just wanted to kind of recap with RX10. You have a new repair assistant, the speech to text feature, a new spectral recovery, and an adaptive mode in the dehum module. Does that sum it up, or did I?
Yeah, that's the big stuff there. Yeah, text nav repair assistant. And then there's the feathering and a couple like little quality of life things. Like one thing, plus a lot of bug fixes and stuff like that. We added keyboard and preset migration from RX9. So the very first time that you open RX10, you should see all your RX9 presets and all your keyboard.
Yeah, those kind of things are very important to me. I think that just shows detail, and that that you're thinking about your end user. It's just great. I love to hear things like that. It's smart.
Yeah, there's so many like little things like that, and we have a great beta group, like for any folks that are interested and want to help us out and keep like giving us feature suggestions and things like that, and letting us know like those little things that would just make your life easier, like on a day-to-day, then definitely reach out to me and I can get you hooked up with our beta.
Awesome. So continue. Let me shut up.
Oh, it's Good. Let me share my screen. I lost my Zoom here. Okay, there we go. Make sure to share the sound. So here's Ozone 10. Let me just make sure this is on the right. Okay, can you hear this? Is that coming through? See, I can't see anyone. So
Yeah, it's coming through.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm not super prepared, but the big thing here is like the new Master Assistant is a really awesome starting point. It just gives you like, as opposed to our other stuff.
No fear, no pride, and I'm down for the ride. I'm my bag in my groove, back in my groove. My fear don't change with the seasons. I find my way back to clear from muddy waters. Make me wonder and make me wanna take back my power from you.
So what I have here now is like a bunch of macro controls. And then I can go back to the kind of view. So this is the chain that that the Master Assistant made for me. It added these two new modules, the impact and the stabilizer, which I'll just briefly touch on. But what's cool about this is there's just a lot here at this top level view where you can quickly be like, okay, I want to adjust my width. Like,
take back my power from you.
Actually, I gotta make sure I'm sharing. I don't know if I'm sharing stereo audio on Zoom right now, but just quickly, just to show you here, like, so there's different targets. It detected that this was pop. If I felt like it was more like hip hop, I could kind of change this, and this like adjusts the kind of the targets on the width and the dynamics. And then this is the shaper. So this is kind of how much of the EQ match is going to apply. And
take back my power from.
And then there's just like a kind of a macro on the maximizer here. So digging into the actual the imager we were talking about, this is like a really awesome new feature in RX or sorry, Ozone 10 is recover sides. So this is used for when you a really common use case is like a lot of times with your lowest band, you'll want to tighten up the kind of stereo image of your bass, because if your bass is too wide, you know, you're not gonna have the same impact that you want. But sometimes you can lose some of the kind of like power and kind of like also like just like ambiance or environment. I'm kind of grasping for words here, but like we found that we added this recover sides to like when you're doing a cut, it's bringing back any material that you would have lost in the sides to the center. So it's like a recovered side. So that's a really cool new feature in the imager module. But yeah, the big ones here are the stabilizer and the impact. So like what these do, like stabilizer is kind of like a sculptor shaper thing. So based on this pop, and these are generated from basically like the top, the current, and we update these like the current, like just basically like top 10 like things for these different genres. And so this is nudging my
Take it how you want it, but that's the way.
Like the tone of my music in that direction. The cut mode is also really cool. So this is kind of like a when I'm coming alive. So it's not finding too much to grab onto here, but this is like kind of a really quick way to just like smooth out like a sound that may have some harshness, like, or a master where it's like, okay, you compressed it, you put it through the but now there's like a little bit of just build up in certain frequencies. This is gonna kind of make it quick to clean that up a little bit. So that's the stabilizer at a super quick glance. The next one's the impact module, which is basically like a dynamics processor, and actually can we have like dynamics matching as part of the as part of the master assistant. So if you
I
have
can see, I can see Ozone 10 would be a separate. We could do a separate get together on that. We're kind of
yeah, we're
running
at
out
time.
of time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll let you. I'll pause here, but that's just like a little teaser, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have you back for that Ozone 10 overview.
Yeah, absolutely.
So awesome, Jack.
Well,
thanks so much for this.
That was amazing. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Happy to be here.
Hey, could I ask a quick question before you guys wrap up? On Ozone, does it scan current releases and do like a machine learning assessment of what's current in terms of mastering techniques, and then apply it to your track? Is that what you were saying?
No. So what I was talking about there were the targets. So like the basically it's more like built in, so it could come in updates. We could update that, like if we updated
Okay.
the product.
So how are you deriving the model for these updates? It must be looking at current music and loudness levels and stuff.
Right. Yeah. So we're kind of like listening to music and yeah, and basically coming up with targets that are like a kind of amalgamation for these different genres.
Great. Thanks so much, Jack.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Thanks.
You all, thank you for coming to Tech Breakfast. If you've got anyone, thanks you, Jack, for showing up. Did you have something, Mr. Boddicker?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure if anybody didn't have their chat window open that the Tech Breck 22 gets you a promo code. Barry is speaking. Barry Rudolph will be speaking on maximizing your social media presence on Saturday, the 29th. And so that's I'm very grateful for Barry for participating in that. But the Tech Breck, TECHBREK 22, and that'll get you your discount code. So
very cool. And if you guys have anything in particular you want me to send out to the group, please just email me. I'm the easiest guy in the world to get a hold of. So and we'll make sure everybody gets it.
We'll do it. Thank you.
You say Tech Breck 22. You want to put that in the chat? I don't see it in there.
I'll do it again.
All the way up at the top.
Tech Breck. Oh, it's all uppercase, right, John?
Yeah, it's all the way to the top.
Oh, there it is.
Tech Breck 22.
I see.
Yeah.
I ain't as dumb as I look.
And there are things that you guys might find interesting, like mixing in the box. Those I'm so sorry, I can't keep it on my head. Produce Like a Pro. Those guys mixing in the box. There may be tools like what Jack just shared with us today that you might find interesting. But look through the presenters. There's like today, we're just adding today Jerry Casale with Devo. He wants to do a presentation on his life with Devo and all that. That should be very cool. Tom Oberheim is speaking with Marcus Ryle, interviewing him, who just sold Line 6 to Yamaha, a brilliant musician and creator. And Dave Rossum is speaking. He's the father of sampling, if you will, or he's going to change it to, I guess, 40 years of sampling, where he invented the emulator as well as all the EMU SP1200 and stuff. So there's lots of interesting things for us all there.
A quick question, Michael. Will you make any of this content available for people who can't attend via video?
Well, that's the whole deal. We're trying to drive people in attendance, and we did it last year. It was a tremendous, before the pandemic. It was tremendously expensive, and there was 100 hours of 3-camera shoots to combine and prepare, and it took me like 3 months just to get it into a format where it could be available to everybody. So we're working
get started.
on it. I'm sorry?
Get started.
I have another job. Thank you. I would love to do that. We're trying to do that, and there will be bits and pieces available available. Like Mix Like a Pro is going to film theirs and put theirs up, and MIDI Association is doing, their stuff where they come in and they film different things that are of interest to them, and also EnterTalk is doing that. So, but as far as us having a master site where everybody can download that, I haven't gotten the right solution yet. Not one that I can afford. If I had an extra $60,000 to throw at it, it would be great. But I don't. Not yet. Not yet. We're still building this. All the expense goes to the Marriott so far. So
yeah, Michael, give us the location. It's at the airport again, at the hotel.
Yeah, it's at the Marriott, the Burbank. It's actually called the Los Angeles Marriott Burbank Convention Center. Instead of turning left to go into the Burbank Airport, you turn right, and it's 40 feet.
There you go.
Yeah,
great. See everybody there.
Thank you. Well, we'll have another tech bracket before that, right? Won't we have it on the 28th?
Yes.
27th.
After the AES show, yes.
Yeah, 27th. So we'll have a tech breakfast that morning. And then it's Keith Emerson tribute with Jordan Rudis playing. I don't know if you guys know Jordan. Jordan's phenomenal, possibly the most technically gifted guy now that now that Chick Corea has passed. He's that guy. Can improvise with his left hand and completely different with his right hand, and at a speed that is uncomprehendable. And so he's playing with the Mark Bonilla band. We'll have some Keith Emerson film scores, and a couple of a pianist, Kai Matsumoto, is playing Keith Emerson concertos, and Rachel Flowers is playing B3, and it'll be a fun night on Thursday night, and then we hit all the seminars and stuff the next Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Thanks for letting me blurb that out, Barry.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
You got it.
Please take a look.
All right, you all. Thanks for Tech Breakfast. Thanks for coming. And we'll see you all again soon, all right? Ciao.
Thank you.